So what does your base game not have that these expansions do? Well, find out in this video. Alright, so here's some of the stuff that you'll get if you get some of the expansions to Twilight Imperium. The first thing I want to talk about is shock troops. Shock troops, you get a few of these things in the expansion, and if any of your ground forces roll a perfect 10 in combat, invasion combat, they automatically become shock troops. Now, why do you want them to become shock troops? Well, shock troops are a 5 in battle, where the ground troops are an 8. So shock troops are a lot better in that aspect. However, when in battle, if they become a shock troop, they're also the first to take casualties. So if someone were to roll the die and hit me and I was green, I'd have to discard my shock troop before I got rid of my ground troop. And then also, if it's just one ground troop left and you rolled a 10, it would stay as a ground troop because you cannot have a shock troop without a ground troop. There must be at least one ground troop there to support that shock troop. And one of the best things about shock troops are, let's say that I was invading this planet here, okay, and I was green, and I know that's not a carrier, but I was invading this planet with a PDS cannon and whatnot. And let's say I won the battle. I destroyed all the other ground troops there. If I survived and there's still a shock troop left over, you know, with the support of a ground troop, then what happens to the space dock and PDS cannon of the opposing player is I get them. Shock troops can come on certain planets. For instance, in the expansion, they have one called Hope's End. If you see this, it has a shock troop icon. Why is that? Every time you refresh this planet, you get an extra shock troop to put with your ground forces, which is really neat. They also have other things like Mirage. Every time it refreshes, you're going to get a extra fighter, or Primor. Every time it refreshes, you get an extra ground troop. So they make these planets just a little bit more desirable with those extras. And of course, this is included in the expansion. Now, another thing I want to talk about that we've talked a little bit about already is space mines. How do you get space mines in space? Well, again, let's say that, you know, I've got everything set up here. If I have a cruiser and 2 resources, if I pay 2 resources, I can put down some space mines. And I can put, you know, 2 space mines if I want to. It depends, but I can only do 1 per turn. All right, so 1 space mine per turn. My next turn I could put another space mine on there. Now, honestly, I don't know why you would need 2 space mines, you know, anyway. I think 1's good enough, because what's going to happen is, let's say that you're on, you know, this planet here, and you've put down a space mine, and if an enemy ship goes onto this square, octagon, they have to roll the die. Now, on a 9 or 10, it would be a hit and cause that ship to be destroyed if it only takes 1 hit. So let's see, I rolled the die here, and it's a 5, so I'm okay. Either way, if it's a hit or a miss, you then remove the space mines, and then you can go into the invasion part of it. But they're set around the planet, you know, to stop people from invading. Now, what if there's 2? Would I have to roll twice? No, I just roll once, and then I can start my invasion. And then if I'm unsuccessful, maybe the second time I'll have to roll again to do the other space mine, but I don't have to do 2 at the same time. But those are space mines, and that's how that all works. Now, the last thing you've probably been looking at here this whole time is like, Matt, what is that? Sumerian. Well, this is actually a refinery or space station here. And you get these in the expansions, and like I said, this one, wherever it has resources and influence, and whenever you refresh it, you're going to get 1 trade. It says you gain 2 trade tokens. So you would gain 2 trade tokens every time you refreshed it. Now, the thing with these kind of stations, you cannot put ground troops on it or anything. You just own it. What you do, you see this little flag imprint? You'll put your flag emblem right there to show ownership. I own it. Once someone takes over this planet, though, they'll remove this and they own it too. So you're going to have to give them the planet and the space station probably, because they own it as well. All they have to do is be near it and they can own that space station. Another thing with the expansion is refineries and colonies. These are add-ons that you can put on to a planet. So for instance, let's say I have this planet and I wanted to put a refinery on it. Well, that would add to its resources. Or let's say instead I wanted to add a colony to it, and that would add to its influence. Now, you can only have 1 of these per planet, so I can't put a colony and a refinery on the same planet. It's one or the other. And it only costs one resource, but once you do that, once you add a colony or a refinery to it, you exhaust that planet for that turn. Now you don't flip over the colony or the refinery, you just flip over the planet to show it's exhausted and you can't use it. Once you refresh it, it pulls it up. But once you add it using one resource, paying one resource, if you add a colony or a refinery, it would exhaust that planet. Also, by the way, you cannot build if there are ships in the area. So like, let's say this was the planet here, and there was a ship, an enemy ship in the area. Well, I could not build a colony or a refinery on that planet. Same thing on a space dock. If you have a space dock near a planet, I don't think I mentioned this in previous videos, but if an enemy ship was over there and they didn't invade the planet, but they won the space war, they just don't have any ground troops to land, well, this space dock may not produce ships as long as there are enemy ships in the area. So you got to get rid of that enemy ship before your space dock can produce other ships. Now, any planets that you want to add a refinery or a colony to must be in your possession for an entire round. So you couldn't have just captured a planet and then added a colony or a refinery to it. You have to wait a full round. Plus, anytime someone captures this planet and you had, let's say, a refinery on it or a colony, once that person gets the planet, do they get the colony and refinery? No, those get eliminated and go back to the deck. They can build their own on there on the next round if they want to, but they don't. That refinery or colony doesn't go with that extra player. And you can't put it on to another planet. You have to discard it. Another one is you cannot build refineries or colonies on space stations. That's not allowed. Space stations are on their own. And also you can't build them on any of your home planets. So this is not a home planet, but if it was, it'd have a gold border around it, which I'll show those in another video. But you couldn't build a colony or a refinery on your home planet. It has to be on a planet that you have conquered. All right, so as you can see, there's a lot of optional ways to play the game. Shock troops, refineries, colonies, space mines, goodness gracious. And all of them each add another layer to the game. I'll be honest, we've played with all of them before. Space mines don't get used that much. To be honest, surprisingly, colonies and facilities didn't get used as much as you think they would. Shock troops were used quite often. Even though it was kind of hard to remember, every time I rolled a 10, they became a shock troop, but then went back down if I didn't have a ground force, left over at the end of the game. So, but shock troops are really good. All of these are just really exciting ways and bring extra layers onto this game. It's one of the reasons why everyone loves Twilight Imperium. And see, when it came to the expansions, they didn't just slap the label on and say, oh, they'll buy it, it's Twilight Imperium. No, they really thought long and hard, what can we do to improve or enhance this game? And that is exactly what they did with these expansions. All right, folks, that's it for this video. See you on the next one.